Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March meeting of the Capital Program Oversight Committee. Are there any public speakers? No public speakers. Okay. Approval of the meeting minutes. Can I have a motion of the approval of the meeting minutes? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? So moved. Committee work plan. Craig Stewart.
There are no changes to the work plan this month. So that's it.
Okay, then we can get started. I think the first report is Capital Construction Company, Uday Durg, on the Fulton Street Center.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to give a status of the Fulton Center complex. With less than 4 months to go, the Fulton Center is on schedule to be completed in June of 2014. The targeted date for opening is June 26th of 2014. In terms of cost, we are running below budget, below the current budget of $1.4 billion. In terms of progress, in the last 90 days, we have started testing all the communication systems, including the fire alarm, the public address systems, the TCAM, we call the Trans-Center Area Network, and other communication systems and finishes. We also received authorization from the December board to enter into the lease agreement with the master lessee. In the next 90 days, we would like to complete all testing of communication systems, sign the master lease by end of April, and like I said before, the target opening is June 26th. We want to finalize the date as we go forward. In terms of cost and schedule performance, the total project spending is below 2009 plan due to lower than assumed spending, such as lower reserve consumption in terms of TA labor and utilities. At this rate, we anticipate the project will come in or below budget. In terms of third-party construction, this is about the total construction value planned in 2009. That is because of change orders and the enhancement work. In terms of schedule, we're projecting a 61 schedule contingency, although that has shrunk by 15 days due to the delivery of ceiling panels. In terms of budget, our contingency increased by $10 million from the last quarter. In terms of the critical milestones, we would like to finalize the master lease going forward. I think transitioning from construction phase to operation phase, the impact, of course, is going to be on the delay in terms of O&M manuals, and the mitigation is that we will have to extend the interim management plan if this doesn't happen in a timely fashion. The next, of course, is the testing commissioning schedule. The issue here is to make sure that all the critical systems are tested and completed in the next 90 days. The impact, of course, is going to be on the schedule if this is not completed in a timely fashion. The mitigation, of course, we have had extensive meeting with the MTA and New York City Transit staff, and meeting regularly to ensure that we get the project completed in June 2014. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Independent engineers, comments on the report?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. The IEC finds that the critical testing has slipped 15 days since the IEC's last December report. We find that there are approximately 41 days of contingency remaining. The public address system, the fire alarm systems, which are critical to the opening of the facility, need to be completed by then. And needless to say, the MTA management must monitor this closely. As per MTA the master lease is in negotiation, and the IEC finds that it's important for the Fulton Center success. The project remains on budget. Our recommendation, since the MTA has established a Fulton Center target opening date, it's important that the completion of the outstanding critical work identified as necessary for the opening slip no further. That's it for Fulton.
I have a question. I don't know if any of the other board members do, but generally that part of the project schedule that gets to compress the most is the testing and commissioning. And this is a very large complex. It's got a lot of specialty systems, and we're actually, if we're saying the end of June, we're talking 3 months. There's not a lot of time. So what provisions have you made in terms of, because if we get out there with a published date on a schedule, that may need to move. We can't open this facility if we don't have the systems tested and approved, commissioned and approved.
I just wanted to mention that with the exception of a very critical systems, all of the remainder of the systems are being tested separately because they are outside, they are part of the master leasee system. The one that we are basically mandatory that we have, that is communication and fire, they have been tracked very closely. We're working with New York City Transit hand in hand, and we expect to continue to do that. At this point, we are actually tested a lot of the systems. Prior to that, we have retained some people that have been former employees of New York City Transit that are working on the project to make sure that the testing, the system safety and all of the tests are accomplished. And we are going forward basically on a weekly basis. We are meeting to make sure and track these things so we'll incur no delay. So that's what we're doing, and in fact, this is in coordination with the president of New York City Transit, Carmen Bianco.
That's fine. I just want to make, we ought to have a date in our mind at which we say we go or not go with that date of late June, because I
That's
don't want to
correct.
be put in a position where we got undue pressure on people trying to approve and commission critical systems. So, okay. Sean Kildare, report on the number 7 line extension.
Good afternoon. The number 7 line extension program has been divided into 6 construction contracts. Only 5 of these contracts are required for revenue service. 4 of the 5 contracts required for revenue service have achieved substantial completion. 3 of the 4 contracts that have to achieve the substantial completion has been ahead of schedule or on schedule. For the 5th contract, the contract's latest schedule update has a projected substantial completion date of February 19th, 2015. The schedule update has been rejected for several reasons, the most important being it included flawed logic and sequencing assumptions associated with the escalator testing. Incorporating the logic corrections and reflecting the impact of the recent change orders to accelerate the escalators would bring the substantial completion date back to January 6, 2015. The contractor has submitted a mitigation and acceleration proposal to bring substantial completion back to December 2nd, 2014. HYDC, our funding partner, has requested MCACC to pursue a November 17th, 2014 substantial completion date. Discussions with the contractor on the mitigation and acceleration proposal are beginning this week. Cost. The original subway project budget of $2.1 billion included $100 million or 5% contingency. In 2011, HYDC added $266 million of non-subway work. 0% contingency was added. Therefore, the new budget of $2.420 billion included $100 million in contingency, or approximately 4%. 4 construction contracts have achieved substantial completion date, and all have been completed below budget. Currently, it's forecast the number 7 line will be completed $53 million below the original budget. Next slide. Progress. The latest contract to achieve substantial completion was contract C-26510, the main station entrance core and shell. No, back one, please. Thank you. The main station entrance core and shell contract. Substantial completion was declared February 19th. It was completed $7 million under the original budget of $128 million. The 4 projects that have reached substantial completion equal the total bid cost of $1.37 billion. The contingency expenditures on these contracts was approximately $7.5 million, which is a half of 1% as compared to the original budget 5%. The original construction contract required for revenue service, the finishes and system contract, is 85% complete and is also trending below budget. Overall, 96% of the construction required for revenue service has been completed. 90-day look ahead. Installation of the incline elevators has begun. While fairly common in Europe, this is the first time incline elevators will be used in New York City and the first time they will be used in the USA by any rapid transit property. High-rise escalators, level 2 acceptance tests for the longest escalators in New York City transit system will occur in June. These escalators have a 84 vertical foot rise and are 168 feet long. By comparison, the escalators at 53rd and Lex have a 56 vertical foot rise and are 112 foot long. These escalators on the number 7 line are 50% longer than the escalators on 53rd and Lex. The factory acceptance tests for the fans at site J and K are projected to be completed by the end of May. The factory acceptance test for the transmission backbone system is scheduled to be completed by mid-May. And completion of the main station entrance canopy installation is scheduled for April. Next slide, please. Overall, project expenditures are trending below budget. The final estimate on completion is projected to be $53 million below budget. We expect to have savings in TA labor and contingency at the completion of the project. Next slide, please. Schedule contingency. At the insistence of HYDC, the funding partner, the original project duration was developed with zero allocation schedule contingency. MTA is forecasting a fall 2014 substantial completion date. As far as cost contingency, expenditures as the end of February equal $2.116 billion. The contingency expenditures equaled $17.7 million, or 0.8%, compared to the original budget 5%. With $138 million, or 7% of construction costs to go, there is $84.2 million, or 80% of the contingency remaining. Currently, it is forecasted that the number 7 line will be completed $53 million below the original budget, and the $53 million represents 53% of the original 100% contingency allocation. Next slide, please. Critical milestones. High-rise escalator. The factory acceptance test for the high-rise escalator failed. For mitigation, the contract proposed to conduct the acceptance test in the field with full-height escalators. New York City Transit, MTA agreed based upon the contract accepting all cost and schedule liabilities. This action is a schedule delay mitigation measure. Current status is the contractor has started installation of all five high-rise escalators. The contractor is currently trending 5 weeks ahead of the 35-week escalator installation schedule required to support the contractor's December 2nd, 2014 substantial completion date. Next item, please. Transmission backbone system. There have been delays in the submission of testing procedures for the transmission backbone system. MTA and New York City Transit have conducted several workshops with the contractor to expedite the review process. Current forecast is the factory acceptance test for level 3 will be completed by May 9th, 2014. Installation contract requires the cabinets to be on site by June 1st, which will support the fall 2014 revenue service date. We're currently on schedule with this activity. Last slide. Inclined elevator. The factory test for inclined elevator failed twice. To mitigate the schedule delay, the contractor request to perform an acceptance test in the field was accepted by MTA and New York City Transit, with the proviso that the contractor has to accept all schedule and cost liabilities. Current status is the contractor has shipped the elevator. Structural components are currently being installed. The contractor has reduced his installation duration from 6 months to 3 months. And acceptance test is projected to be done July 2014, which will support a revenue service for the fall date. That's the end of my presentation.
Independent engineers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The overall budget remains at 2.42 billion, which includes the 266 million to cover the HYDC funded non-subway work. The IEC is currently forecasting an estimated completion of 2.36 with an allocated contingency of the $53 million remaining. Potential acceleration costs may reduce this reserve. As to schedule, the IEC is forecasting a December 2014 revenue service date if the mitigations proposed by the contractor and MTA are realized. MTACC has mitigated some of the delays to the factory acceptance test for both the inclined elevators and the high-rise escalators by allowing the contractor to perform these tests. But the IEC wants to note that there are significant schedule risks that remain with the project by having these tests performed on site. A detailed schedule to support the revised RSD has yet to be received and accepted. Once a schedule is accepted, the IEC will monitor to the revised date. MTACC is working with Transit to ensure the plant staffing and training will support this date. And the IEC just wants to recommend to closely monitor the remaining schedule risks to ensure timely mitigations are implemented.
Any questions? Comments? Absolutely, go ahead, Mitch.
I'm trying to understand this. If I understood what you said, they tested all the escalators in their factory and they failed, some of them twice. Now instead of testing them again at the factory, we're testing them on site after they install them. Is that what I'm getting to understand?
Actually, the piece of equipment that failed twice were the elevators, not the escalators.
Okay.
The escalators were tested in the factory, and it failed one time. The component that failed was the handrail drive system. They weren't being synchronized with the steps. So the contractor did it on a low rise in the factory. Subsequently,
Low rise meaning not the full height,
correct.
that we envision when we get to wherever it's going to go.
Yes.
Okay.
And the problem with the contractor doing it at a full height in his factory is that his factory cannot accommodate an escalator of this size.
Okay.
So what has been agreed upon is that if the contractor is going to take all the risk, he's going to do the full height, because we want to make sure the handrail drive system would work on a full
Right.
height escalator. So he
Okay.
agreed to take the full schedule and cost risk associated with it. So to mitigate the schedule and to overcome something that's really almost impossible for him to do, he's agreed to do this in the field. He's requested and we've agreed to have him do it in the field.
So, and these are the 5
5 high-rise.
high-rise
yes,
escalators,
Yes.
separate from the elevators.
Yes. And high-rise escalator, he actually required, the factory test wouldn't have been all 5, it would have been only one of them, and it has to pass. So, and he, subsequent, we didn't go back and witness it, he had told us that he had corrected the handrail drive system, but we said we didn't want to see it on the short one, we insist on seeing it at full height.
Right.
And not accepting it unless the full height passes the factory test. So now we're going to do that test in the field.
And is the revenue service opening date dependent upon both the escalators and elevators passing the field testing process, for lack of a better term?
Yeah. Of the two components, the escalators are on a critical path. So the escalators are the more important of the two to make sure they passes.
But you need both elements to be able to open the station.
Correct.
That was my question.
For ADA reasons, I have to have the elevators also. But you saw the elevators were tagged with a yellow because they're not near critical, and the contractor is expediting his installation process. If he fails, this risk is on the contractor, and he's going to have to mitigate and get additional staff in here to make sure he makes the
But
schedule.
we can't open
You can't open.
until he fixes
Correct.
whatever it is
Correct.
whatever it might, we don't know that yet, might be a problem.
Correct. And we should know, I believe the date is June or July, I'm not really, I had it in my presentation, on when exactly that escalator factory test is, field test is.
Okay.
June?
I think it said June, yes.
June.
Okay.
Finish, Mitch?
Yeah, thank you.
Has he installed this same type of escalator prior at another location that works?
That was one of the questions that the chief mechanical engineer of New York City Transit had basically asked them to prove where in the world, if they had done this drive system with the steps previously.
That's what I'm asking.
They had not done this exact configuration previously, so that's why we did not release them from the requirement of giving us a full height factory test. We insisted that they give us a full height.
But at this particular time, we're gonna install them and then test them.
The one, we're going to install the first one, and he's going to test the handrail drive system, and if it fails, the risk is on him. Yes.
Yeah, but when we say the risk is on him, let's be very clear here, okay? There's a financial risk associated with the dollar amount we're gonna reimburse him or pay him for the escalator. If the escalator and or the inclined elevator are not operational,
Yeah.
we cannot open the system.
Right.
So we say the risk is on them, but in actual fact, the risk of opening is on us, and we're gonna have to convert it to damages, is what it's gonna be. So, two items on a critical path,
Right?
the high-rise escalators, and length of run escalators. I think WMATA's got escalators longer than these. The inclined elevators are more of a one-off. If you've been to Pittsburgh and the inclined planes that they had for years and they're still operational, in concept it's the same thing, newer technology. So it's a platform that rises on a on a slope with a level surface.
The manufacturer of these units is Coney, and Coney had not done this previously. Schindler has done the longer ones, not Coney. So but Coney is confident. They're internationally manufacturer, and they're confident that they have fixed the issue. And we'll see in a month or two.
So this is the first time that this company has done this type of escalator.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
yes, Carl.
And they're very similar to the ones that this other company has done?
Yes.
Well, these are both, I guess, German, Schindler and Koenig.
Yeah.
Coming from Germany. Local, but
Well, I guess we just
German
have to see
company.
what happens.
the inclined elevator is made in Italy.
Oh, God.
Okay. But by the just so we are very clear, yes, they are made in Italy, but a lot of the components are American made. So that's one of the reasons that we are taking American made components, flying them or taking them to Italy. They will put it together there, and then the software that operates is actually New York based. Let's call it. I think is in New Jersey or Long Island. So it made sense that they will test it here, based on and just they put it together. So.
Okay, thank you.
Next presentation is Second Avenue Subway.
Good afternoon. Second Avenue Subway project is on schedule to meet the December 2016 revenue service date. The project is within budget. The construction work is progressing as planned. At 96th Street Station, mezzanine slabs were completed and roof slab construction is 23% complete. At 86th Street Station, structural inverse slab has been completed and concrete arch pour for the roof slab is over 50% complete. The removal of 69th Street Mug House is completed and we achieved substantial completion of the 72nd Street Station heavy civil structural work in January 2014. The 72nd Street finish contractor started the installation of structural steel for underpinning at 301 East 69, and last week on March 19th we completed successfully the load transfer of the two buildings, one 19-story and the second one 5-story, which is the 301 East 69th Street and 1322. The systems contractor started the installation of in tunnels between 99th Street and 105th Street. 90-day look ahead. At 96th Street Station, roof replacement will be completed and fabrication of the facility power equipment will be started. At 72nd Street Station, placement of the mezzanine slab will continue. At 86th Street Station, access will be provided to the station finish contractor to begin construction. Next slide, please. Cost and schedule performance. Actual dollars spent is less than the 2009 planned expenditure. This is due to favorable construction bid received for the construction contracts, when we awarded all 10 contracts. The third party construction dollars spent is also less than 2009 planned expenditure for the same reason. Next slide, please. Cost and contingency, schedule contingency status. Schedule. The project had 186 calendar days of contingency in 2009. The current schedule contingency is 102 calendar days. The main reason for the reduction is the loss of contingency due to the delay in award of the 86th Street Station cavern contract in August 2011. The project continues pursuing effort to add program contingency by accelerating specific work activities in affected areas. Budget. The project had $322 million contingency in 2009 budget. Budget contingency is $310 million, which is $2 million less than the last report. This reduction in contingency is due to the forecasted additional work orders in the construction contracts. Next slide, please. Critical milestones. The issue was ongoing schedule delay in completion of the entrance 2 work at 86th Street Station, which is delaying the contract substantial completion. The schedule impact is 5 months to the contract. This is due to the sidewalk shade installation installed by the Yorkshire Tower as part of the Local Law 11 work, which interfered with the entrance to construction work. This delay is not on the project critical path. The issue is now resolved. The contractor proposed a schedule mitigation plan to recover 16 weeks of delay to the project. MTACC reviewed the proposal and negotiated the time with the contractor and directed the contractor to start the mitigated work on February 2018, 2014. The work is currently progressing as per the revised plan. Next slide, please. The issue is the delay in start of the entrance 1 work at 69th Street due to the building owner granting approval for the utility design relocation in the building and granting access to areas beyond easement to complete the work. The issue is now resolved. All agreements with the building owners to start the construction of entrance 1 work have been received, and the work started on February 3rd, 2014. Next slide, please. The issue is that there is increased duration of entrance 1 construction for the same entrance at 301-69 located at 72nd Street Station due to redesign of the entrance from inside the building to the sidewalk in order to address owner's concern. The delay in completion of entrance 1 work is not on the project critical path. As part of the mitigation, the project has obtained agreement with New York City Department of Transportation on a revised maintenance and protection that allows the contractor to work on entrance 1 right across concurrently. The project is also working with the contractor to identify additional means to minimize the schedule impact. MTACC is also working with the contractor to complete the negotiation of additional work orders for this relocation work. Next slide, please. At 63rd Street Station, the turnover of the systems area such as communication rooms, signal rooms, and platform areas to the systems contractor did not happen as scheduled. The delay in 63rd Street contract has not impacted the critical path of the systems contract and 2nd Avenue Subway project critical path. To minimize the delay, an alternate plan was implemented to allow the systems contractor to obtain access into key areas earlier than the current forecast. The current plan is to complete the milestone 3 work, which includes completion of the mezzanine level and communication room work by the end of June 2014 and platform levels and signal rooms by end of September 2014. Next slide, please. The issue was the specified pad and boots for the low vibration track installation has been determined by FTA to be a non-compliant with the Buy America standard. This issue is now resolved. Last week, FTA approved the Buy America waiver for the LVT pads and boots of a concrete block for a low vibration track system. Next slide, please. The issue is the delay in start of the track installation work due to the resolution of the clearance issue in the existing tunnel north of the 96th Street Station. The potential delay is 53 calendar days to the project critical path. In order to mitigate the delay, the project is considering buying another track installation machine and provide it providing access at multiple locations to perform the track work, thus reducing the potential delay. In addition, an acceleration plan is being discussed with the contractor. Next slide, please. The issue is station facility power may not be available to support the planned testing and commissioning activities. The project critical path could be reduced if not mitigated. In order to mitigate the delay, candid comments have been received and revised drawings have been issued to the contractor for all stations. MTACC is reviewing the 60% shop drawing submission package second time for 96th Street Station contract and plans to release the switchgear for fabrication by end of this month. The contractor has agreed to submit the 60% submission for 72nd Street by end of this month, and we plan to release the facility power equipment in May 2014. This is Second Avenue report.
Thank you, Anil. Independent Engineer Joe DeVito.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The track work on the LVT track work, which Anil speaks of, was delayed 73 work days due to the redesign for close clearance in the existing tunnels that were built in the 1970s. Contractor has determined the impact pushes out substantial completion for systems by 58 work days, and this item is on the critical path. Project team has mitigated 18 days and left with 40 work days. On permanent power, the final design of facility power substations has taken 7 months longer than originally scheduled. The project team now expects the delivery of the substations to be 3 months late after mitigation actions. These delays are not yet incorporated into the IPS, so the impact on downstream testing and commissioning is yet not known. Our recommendation is to update the schedule with the impact of these permanent power delays. The scheduling process needs to review the prerequisites for the finished systems contractor turnovers to ensure they are properly represented. Prior recommendations have been given to this group before, and there's no need to take any additional time on those. Good.
Any questions? Eastside Access, Bill Goodrich. Introduce yourself, Bill.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Goodrich, and I think most of you are aware I've taken over as the Senior Program Executive on Eastside Access as of 2 weeks ago. So this will be my first report to the board on Eastside Access.
That'd be a good one.
We'll try to keep it brief.
Are you having fun yet?
Absolutely. As we reported to the board back in January, we're maintaining a preliminary end date forecast for the schedule because of the differences that we've had in the schedule. The range is from September 2021 to September 2023. Similarly, for cost, we do have a range there as well, which is $9.693 billion to $10.309 billion. We are conducting a series of review meetings with between us and the construction oversight, the IEC. We're continuing to review the critical assumptions that were made by both parties in the analysis of the schedule and of the cost, with the mutual goal of trying to narrow that range. As far as progress, I'm pleased to report on the following items. We're looking to award 2 contracts by the end of this month. One is one of the Manhattan structure contracts, CM006, and we also, our first systems package, which is CS179, we're looking to award that by the end of this month as well. In addition, we received the high-speed rail grant approval from the FRA, so that enabled us to release the remainder of the NTP. We released a full NTP to the Herald Structures westbound bypass contract. The Manhattan South Structures CMO05, which is the Michaels Corporation contract, that continues to progress well and is currently on schedule. We also spent a great deal of time this past month in a risk assessment workshop on the Herald interlocking, on the replan schedule, and all of the contracts that are involved with that. We're in the process of receiving and evaluating that report. As far as 90-day look ahead, we are looking to advertise the GCT concourse and finishes contract, and this is following an industry outreach which occurred in November. And we're looking to advertise the traction power procurement. The Herald Point interlocking cutover, which is a key cutover for the point interlocking with Amtrak, is scheduled to be completed by the end of April. And we're going to start the initial relocation of the 12 kV feeder in order to be able to remove that existing infrastructure. As far as cost and schedule status, we're going to be working towards preparing some new curves on cost and schedule, but the fact that we have a range right now for cost and schedule, until we can develop those, that'll be at a future meeting.
I'd like to add at this point, because that's something that's unusual, and I want to make sure the board understands why we're doing that. The last time we had a rebaselining in this project was, I believe, May or June of 2012. And within 5 months, that rebaselining, both in terms of cost and schedule, was out of whack, to say the least. So in the early part of 2013, we made a decision at headquarters to basically have an independent review done, and that's where we brought Rick Thorpe in, and many of you have seen that. As a result of that process, we ended up in a place where we had 4 different costs and 4 different schedules. MTA had one that was the most aggressive on both fronts, followed by, I believe, Rick Thorpe, then the independent engineer, and lastly the FTA, which is our stakeholder partner in this. Under the heading of once burned, twice shy, I'm reluctant to pin a number as the chairman and CEO, whether it be schedule or cost, without really taking it through its paces from a standpoint of seeing, I think we can comfortably say we're going to be within the range of cost and schedule as outlined by those 4, but I want a certain healthy tension. Bill and the executive committee led by myself, Bill, Michael, Helena, and Amtrak, supported by staff, to coalesce around what the budget and schedule is for this project. We cannot afford to rebaseline it again, only to find it being outside of what those parameters were within a year or 2. This is a very difficult project. There's a lot hinged on it. I listened to the dialogue at the Finance Committee. I watched from the monitor upstairs, and I heard a lot of the questions and the frustration of board members with respect to this project. I share with you those frustrations. We need to get to a point where we deliver this project. Sunken money alone dictates that. The importance of us having an ability to have another point terminal access for Metro North dictates that. It cannot happen until East Side Access is delivered. It cannot happen until East Side Access is delivered. And we saw 2-3 weeks ago, with the explosion right along the Park Avenue Viaduct, what impact that had on Metro North, because had there been damage to that physical structure, we would have had no ability to bring Metro North into Grand Central Terminal, and the impacts would have been substantial. So what you will see here for a period of time are ranges on schedule and cost, with an expectation in the next few months we get to a point where there's one schedule, there's one cost, and that will be jointly driven by Bill and the executive committee with the other partners on the project. Go ahead, Bill.
The only thing I want to point out here is to give you an idea of what we've committed already. We have committed $6.491 billion, about 67% of the low end of that range. And actual expenditures on the project are about $4.856 billion, so about 50% of that cost is actually expended at this point. Some of the critical milestones, critical issues that we're tracking. The first one is the Manhattan Cavern contract. That's a schedule risk in our CM007 contract. We're looking to advertise that by October of this year with a limited NTP in June of 2015. The on-time award of this contract is critical, as this contract is the critical path for Manhattan and also the critical path for the program. Any delay here would impact several of the finishes contracts and would lead to an impact on our critical path through integrated systems testing. What we've done is we've conducted an industry outreach to the contractors. We've actually reached out to 10 general contractors to solicit their input on the design and get their input on their perceived risks of the different options. This way we'll have a risk-informed design to mitigate schedule risk on this contract. The next item is the GCT concourse and finishes contract, CM14B. We have completed the design documents. We're ready to go to advertise. That'll be this coming month that we're going to advertise that contract. It is an RFP. We're looking to award it by November. This is a tight time frame for award of an RFP contract. So we need a timely procurement strategy to ensure we achieve that November date. As I mentioned, we've done this industry outreach. In addition to that, we are going to use a one-step best and final offer RFP process. We'll follow the regular RFP process with a regular bid addenda as needed during the bid period. All submitters will be called into meetings to review any questions that they have, and then there'll be a one-time best and final offer as opposed to multiple best and final offers. And after that, we'll go through a scoring process to select the lowest qualified bidder. Another issue that we're tracking carefully is the schedule risk in Herald interlocking. We have some major summer outages scheduled for 2015 and 2016 that the success of Herald is dependent upon. One of our concerns has been the availability of force account resources, both Amtrak and Long Island Railroad, to perform the necessary work to prepare for these summer outages. Any delay in this could result in Herald being near critical, although the critical path is through Manhattan. We're in the process of developing a contingency plan to reduce that. We're doing two things actually. One is we're tracking the force account levels with the numbers that they're actually providing versus the plan in our schedule, and reviewing that with the railroads. And then we're also reviewing and identifying civil type work that's part of that work, which could potentially be performed by third-party contractors. And where we can identify that work, we are reviewing that with the railroads and getting labor clearances with the unions to get approval to potentially perform that work. We would only do that in the event that the force account personnel were not available at the time we need it, and that'll give us the ability of using a third-party contractor to perform the work. That concludes my report.
Independent engineer Kurt Egger.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As stated, the MTACC will manage to schedule at the low end of the preliminary range established or presented at the January CPOC meeting, and the IEC plans to monitor the project's progress based on the schedule. There are risks that could extend the schedule. The complex interaction between finish out and systems work in the GCT caverns, the durations of traction power and signal installation in Manhattan, and the time required for integrated systems testing. But there are also opportunities to improve the schedule. For example, the early start of work in non-public areas in the GCT caverns, and repackaging of track work to reduce conflicts in the tunnels. As with the schedule, MTACC will also manage the cost to the low end of the range presented in January. And again, the IEC will monitor the project's cost based on the budget as presented. The risks that could increase the cost. There are remaining cost risks in the GCT cavern finish-out contract, which is the last contract to come out of the breakup of the Manhattan structures work. On some of the upcoming contracts, there are no independent estimates available that support the revised budgets currently used, and the current stage of non-FRA Herald work increases delay risks and may jeopardize full funding of FRA work. Cost opportunities. Savings could be achieved through a timely delivery of the work, reducing overhead cost and claim exposure. The IEC has the following concerns with the ESA project. The awards of Systems Package 1 and Manhattan North structures, which were approved by the board in January, are 1 month late. And the IEC considers the MTACC assumption of a procurement duration for GCT concourse and finishes of 7 months to be aggressive. Historical data shows that MTACC averages 12 months for an RFP procurement. Finally, the IEC has the following recommendations based on the preliminary results of risk assessments and the work performed by the IEC and other independent review groups. Allocate schedule contingency in the IPS to reduce pressure already building on internal milestones. Increase unallocated contingency to account for additional risks identified. And resequence elements of work in Herald not associated with the FRA grant in order to improve schedule certainty and maximize FRA funding. Also, take action on the South Manhattan Structures contract to ensure the timely completion of the critical path work. This concludes our presentation.
Any comments or questions? Yes. Mark.
Owners that I have known abhor the absence of any cost estimates or completion predictions. Considering how the costs here have changed over the years, and considering that the completion predictions seem to be also measured in years, I would urge you to make a good guess a lot sooner rather than later. Otherwise you give the impression that you do not know how much it's going to cost and you have no idea when it's going to be completed. So therefore, I would urge you to make your most reasonable guess earlier rather than later.
I appreciate that. We're very confident of the range. We need to pin a date and a cost within the range. But to be as far off as we were 6 months after we rebased it last time, something I'd never seen on a project of this size. And this is a very difficult project, to say the least. I mean, I was around, when it was at ground zero back in 1996 when I was at the railroad. And although the original budgeted number was 4.3, when the project was first sold, it was even less than that. If I'd walk you down to the caverns and show you how much earth had been moved, I think it would belie the fact in most people's mind to say it could be done for that amount. It's a tremendous amount of what was done in terms of mining and excavating and tunneling to date. But I take your point. I do.
If I could go back, just to one other comment on the estimates. In the IEC's report, I just wanted to point out that there's some upcoming contracts that there are no independent estimates. The project has an estimate for those contracts, and that's part of the cost, total cost. What we committed to was really for reliability purposes. We committed to have an additional independent estimate done by an outside party, and so for some of the future contracts, those independent estimates are still outstanding. I think that was the focus of the IEC's remarks.
Ira?
Yeah, well, that was going to be my question. When will those estimates be available to you?
Well, they're, 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 I don't have a timeline right now, but we can check on that. It should be. I know for the near term contracts that are supposed to go out, they're due shortly.
I mean, I guess that's part of our reason why we don't know how much this is going to cost, because we're waiting for these independent estimates.
They're on top of other estimates they have. It's a
No, I
secondary.
understand that, but I said that's
yeah.
why we're not certain.
That's not the only reason, Ira. It's certainly not the only reason. Okay.
Well, I'm trying to narrow that down
I
because it would
can't
be good.
underline. I've said it twice. You know,
I
to
know,
rebaseline something and then to be out of sorts as bad as we were in 5 months. We're not going to make that mistake again.
Read the slide correctly that in 2016, the estimate is that the outages in Harold will be the entire summer?
There's a 90-day outage scheduled in 2016. There's a 30-day outage scheduled in 2015. But that doesn't mean we're stopping service for 90 days.
No, but it does. It affects service for 90 days.
But there is a plan to be able to maintain service through the interlocking. It's a pretty complex phased plan, but basically the service will be maintained through.
Most likely, it limits your flexibility. So
Right.
you have to be able to have alternate service strategies in the event that some of that existing capacity that remains is affected due to a delay or due to a train line down. So yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Greg.
Steve Barang is going to come up and give us a short presentation and explain our new method of reporting our commitments and completions, and then he will provide this month's results. Steve?
Good afternoon. Steve Barang, Capital Program Management. Up until this year, the way that we have reported our commitments and completions allowed for a 2-month lag in defining what was on time for completions or commitments. In concert with other state agencies to have a sort of a single way of reporting on time and on budget, we have updated our rules of engagement for commitments and completions, and we now no longer allow for a 2-month lag in commitments or completions. And we have also created a project-based on-budget KPI or key performance indicator, where previously we had aggregated this across all of our MTA commitments and completions. And that has changed significantly some of the numbers. And what I'm going to go through is just show you the impact of this on our reporting. Previously, as you can see, the blue line is under our previous rules of engagement for commitments. And you can see for schedule and budget on the left-hand side, schedule was averaged in the high 40s under the old rules of engagement. Under the new rules of engagement, it's going to be in the low 30s. And that's basically due to elimination of the 2-month lag. And on the budget side, what you see is our actual performance increases. And that is due to the fact that our projects that were behind schedule are on budget, because part of this update of our rules of engagement is we no longer are able to roll over or rebaseline commitments from one year to the other when they don't come to fruition. How this affects our 2014 commitments. Under the old rules of engagement, we would be, at this point, looking forward to the whole year, we'd be at a 93% performance rate for our KPI. Under the new rules, we're at 80%. And what this does for this month's performance and completion report is we have 4 late commitments, and we have 4 commitments on time, so we are about 50%, where previously 3 of those 4 commitments would have been deemed on time because they were 1 month of slip. For completions, the situation is similar. The blue line shows that we have ranged around 60% for completions under the for schedule. Under the old rules of engagement, under the new rules of engagement, we're about 15 points below that. And on budget, we remain relatively close under either way that we measure it. What this means for this current year is, looking forward at the whole year, is under the old rules of engagement, we'd be at 91% at this point. Under the new rules of engagement, we'd be at 85%. And that's primarily due to the fact that the one completion that has slipped was less than 2 months and would have been counted as on time. So that is the update for commitments and completions for this month.
Before we move to executive session, I would like to bring your attention to the quarterly traffic light report in tab 4. If you have any questions, we'll entertain them now.
If not, we're going to move under executive session in accordance with the New York Public Officers Law, Section 105(1)A, matters which will imperil the public safety if disclosed. To move? Seconded? All in favor? Aye.